Hello and welcome to this week's CLNS Media Patriots Roundtable. I'm your host, Nick Qualley, sitting here with, like always, Marv and with Mike Molyneux. So this week, not really getting into too many Patriots-centric topics. The first one that we're going to go over today is Roger Goodell and his statement that he made regarding everything that's going on. So this statement obviously comes out following the NFL players. A lot of them made this video, a great video where I don't even really know how to describe it if you guys want to help me describe it. But there was like a lot of like the prominent stars in the league, like Ezekiel Elliott, Patrick Mahomes, they were all in it. Is there like how would you guys describe that video? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yes. It was a video of NFL players demanding that the NFL, speaks up and on what's going on with the world right now.
So following that, Roger Goodell comes out with his statement, and in that statement, he apologizes for, or he basically apologizes for, says the NFL was wrong. I'll say that. He says the NFL was wrong for the way they responded to players kneeling a couple of years ago. And he had a bunch of different quotes in there. The NFL condemns racism. And guys, I just want to talk about that statement overall. I want to know how you guys feel about that statement. If you think it was a strong statement, what are your overall reactions with Goodell and what he said? So Marv, let's start with you. What do you think?
Whatever Goodell says means nothing to me until Kaepernick is back in the field. Plain and simple. You can't tell me that you're sorry about what's happening with injustice and you guys weren't listening 4 years ago, and then the guy who led that movement is still not in the league. So anything Goodell says to me right now means absolutely nothing. It's cute words to put on paper, but if the NFL is really serious about showing, hey, we are listening to what you players are finally saying, what the world's been saying, what black people have been saying for years and centuries that nobody's been listening to, but now you guys really want to listen, show me that by getting Kaepernick back into the league. Someone who put his career on the line and has been pretty much erased from NFL history through the NFL. So if Goodell's serious, he has a meeting with Kaepernick, he has a meeting with the 32 owners in the NFL, and they figure out a way to get Kaepernick back into this league, because what they're doing to Kaepernick right now is wrong.
Now, with Kaepernick, and I'm glad, I mean, he's somebody you obviously have to bring up immediately with this subject. Guys, my biggest issue with this statement is that Goodell didn't say Kaepernick's name once. And if you're going to have a statement like this, and if you're going to go back and you're going to talk about the 2016, 2017 kneeling, you want to call it an era, the kneeling era, because that was a very prominent time in the NFL over the past 10, 20 years. And it was a lot of conversation, and you're right, it was sparked by Colin Kaepernick. And my biggest problem with that statement is that he didn't say Colin Kaepernick's name one time. There was no direct apology to Colin Kaepernick, because Colin Kaepernick lost his job. Colin Kaepernick worked his whole life to get to the NFL. And Kaepernick is no longer part of the NFL. And whether it was directly or indirectly, because of what he did, because he was speaking up, he lost his job, and no team wanted to give him a job after that. So, Mike, give me your full reaction. What are your thoughts on Roger Goodell and his statement?
I mean, just to respond to what you just said, Nick, I think we all collectively know and believe that back when Colin Kaepernick, was essentially out of the league, it was the NFL, not just the separate teams. It was the NFL as a total, organization, whatever you want to call them, that collectively said Kaepernick's not going to be playing in this league anymore. And, you're right. The fact that Goodell could come out and say and make a statement apologizing and basically saying the NFL was wrong for not, paying more attention and opening their eyes to what was really happening. He should have Kaepernick's name in that statement, because, not saying Kaepernick is the reason why necessarily protests and whatnot are happening in the world, but he started a movement in the NFL. He started a movement in the NFL, and everybody knows and can respect that now. And then unfortunately, there's still people out there that, ignorantly still don't understand what he was doing. But in the end, Kaepernick is the reason why kneeling started in the NFL. And if Goodell's going to come out and make a statement like he did, you should have a statement saying, Kaepernick, what you did at the time, we were wrong in not fully understanding and comprehending what you were doing. So, now if you fast forward to 2020 with everything going on, in a sense, it's easy for the NFL to come out with a statement like that, given what's happening globally right now. But at the same time, it shows that, okay, maybe their senses are starting, to come together and things are starting to click to them, especially when you have that video where a lot of prominent players in the league came together and said, hey, we play in this league, and we're playing this league. We want this league to speak up on, what's happening around us. I read a comment, I think, from another player. I think it was Matthew Slater saying something like, the NFL and playing football is temporary, but people, who we are and the lives we live, that's every day. So the NFL has these people in their league. They need to continue to keep the conversations rolling with the platform that they have. And again, just agreeing with you, Nick, you got to bring Kaepernick's name up in a statement like that. And then agreeing with you, Marv, the next step to take up further after this is Kaepernick needs to be on a team. And, hopefully it doesn't come off as, well, let's just throw him on a team because everything's going on. Genuinely, he needs to be on a team because he has the talent to be there. We all know that. And if NFL is real about this, that's what really needs to happen.
So in that statement, he also said that they'll be reaching out to players to see how they can improve and move forward together. Are there any specific ways, other than Colin Kaepernick, are there any other specific ways or actions you think that the NFL could take in order to prove that they are actually looking to move forward and this isn't just lip service, that this isn't just something that they were going to put out to be a part of this movement so they could basically a good PR statement? What do you guys think the NFL could do other than giving Colin Kaepernick a job immediately that would prove that they are actually actively looking to be a part of this change that needs to happen? Marv, do you have anything with that?
Yeah. Owners need to listen to their players. Owners are predominantly white males who live a totally different lives than the football players that they own or that work for them, that play for them, their employees. Owners need to come together with the players and have these conversations on what's going on in this world and why there is such things as kneeling and why things like Colin Kaepernick can happen and how does the NFL, $1 billion corporation, what can they do with the injustices going on in here? How can we spread that message through the behind the shield and help spread awareness of what's happening instead of just being a sports figure? They can be nationally on helping what's happening during this pandemic and on. And I think so if you bring up owners, you bring players coming together and having those meetings and having those conversations, a lot can really genuinely happen, I feel like.
Mike, anything from you?
I mean, I think, now you hear different, athletes or celebrities and different people, putting their money towards different organizations and things in support of trying to fight against, the social injustices that are taking place in this world. You think of all of these, different sports leagues, not only just the NFL, that make millions and billions of dollars. If you want to continue to show your support, like a lot of these organizations are doing now, put some of your money, some of your investments in some of these, things that are out there to show what really side you stand on. If you're really so for, you're so against, racism and whatnot, and you could come out with a statement to the media. Sure, that sounds good. It looks good when you stand in front of a podium or say it, or you put something on social media. But what are you actually doing behind the scenes that really shows your support for what's taking place in the world? So I think that's the next step for not just the NFL, but other sports organizations to just try to continue to show where they really stand with what's going on, not just making statements.
All right. And just to bring it back to him real quick before we wrap up this, unless you guys have anything else to say with it, I just want to go back to Colin Kaepernick because I think he is such an important and such a pivotal piece to this entire conversation surrounding the NFL specifically. Because again, a few years ago, when players were kneeling, when they were making their voices heard, that started with Colin Kaepernick. He put his career on the line while people booed him, while he was being criticized. He put his career on the line to speak up for what he believed in. If you are going to make a legitimate change, and if you are going, there has to be an apology. There has to be an apology to Colin Kaepernick. That is going to be a big step, and that is going to actually prove, potentially, depending on how they do it, that they do want to be part of this change. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we move on?
I agree.
I agree with everything you just said, Nick, for sure.